Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about the types of problems that you're going to see on quiz 1, which will become available for you guys Monday, October the 5th, and you'll have all week to do it, and it will be due Sunday night, October the 11th. Now this quiz is going to cover chapters. Let's jump back here. Well, it's here. It's going to cover chapters 1, 2, 3, and 5. So in this video, I'm going to just talk about the problems from chapters 1, 2, and 3. So this will be part 1, and then I will do a part 2 for chapter 5, because chapter 1, 2, and 3 are common to both micro and macro, and chapter 5 is different for macro and micro. So I'm going to do separate videos for the problems uh, for chapter 5. So this quiz is going to have 8 short essay questions, but really problems to work out, more like problems. And you'll see, what they are, in this video and the next video. Now, once I download or I guess upload these videos to YouTube, I will put the links for you guys in resources right here. So anyway, well, let me just back up. The quiz is in the quizzes, right? I clicked on the quizzes, and that's where you'll find the quiz Monday, October the 5th, and the video is going to be in resources, the video link. I'm going to put that right after chapter 5, right here, both part 1 and part 2. Okay. So the first type of problem that you're going to see is going to be a budget constraint. And in this one, we have Carol, who has a monthly budget for a fitness of $200 that she spends on ice skating and swimming. So the first question is, if the price of one ice skating session is $20, what is the maximum number of skating sessions that she could buy in a month? Well, you just simply divide 200 by 20, and you get 5. Or 10, I mean, sorry, 10. Woo! So you can see that we put the maximum number on the graph right down here. Actually, let me jump over here real quick and get something. Let me grab this guy and come back. So we can see that we put that right down here. Now, and then the next question is, if the price of one swim session is $5, what is the maximum number of swim sessions that Carol could buy in a month? Well, once again, you simply divide her total budget, 200, by the price of swimming, and that's going to be 40. So we would put that number on the axis that you put the variable swim sessions. That's going to be 40. And this is, you can put these variables on whichever axis you want. In the problem, though, it might specify which axis that you should put the variables. And in this one, in the question 3, it does. So it says, if you draw Carol's budget constraint with the skating sessions on the horizontal axis down here, and the swim sessions on the vertical axis up here, what is the slope of the budget constraint? Well, that's easy. Change in the, I'm sure you've learned this in the math, that a slope is the change in y over change in x, or the change in the vertical axis variable over the change in the horizontal axis variable, which is 40 over 10, and it's downward sloping, so it's a negative, it's a change in negative 40 while there's a change in positive 10 skating as we move down. So the slope is going to be -4. Now, once again, if we draw the budget constraint as you see it here, now we need to figure out what the opportunity cost of purchasing one ice skating session is. Now, it's important to know, or to assume always, that in these types of models, when we talk about opportunity cost, we're talking about what the consumer would have to give up of one variable in the model, whatever's in the model, or one good or a service in the model, to get a certain amount of the other good or service. So here it's saying, what would Carol have to give up? Well, what would the opportunity cost in swimming? Because she's going to have to give up swimming sessions in order to get one more ice skating session. So if we look at the price of a skating session, which and when you see that's up here, it's $20. So in order for her to purchase one more skating session, she would have to give up 4 swim sessions, because 5 times 4 is 20, right? So that's one way that we can figure it out. The other way is that if we know what the slope is, which we do, then the slope is going, then the opportunity cost of whatever is on the vertical axis, right? So if we're asking what the opportunity cost is of the good or service on the horizontal axis, then it's going to be the absolute slope of the budget constraint. So the opportunity cost of the skating session, or whatever the good or service is on the horizontal axis, is going to be the absolute value of the slope of the budget line. So if you know that, then you can figure out or compute the opportunity cost that way. Now, just so we completely understand this model, if they were asking you what Carol would have to give up in order to get one more swim session, in other words, what would be the opportunity cost of a swim session, it would be 1/4, right? 1/4 of a skating session, because one swim session costs 5. Well, I have it down here too. I already had it. That's okay. I have 2 green bubbles now, right? So anyway, so if she wants one more swim session, that would be 1/4, a 1/4 of what it would cost to go skating. So we can also say that the opportunity cost of one swim session, or whatever the good or service is on the vertical axis, is the absolute value of the reciprocal, not 4, but 1/4 of the slope of the budget line. So if you understand this basic model, this basic budget constraint, 2 good, 2 service model, then you won't have any problem with the first question on your quiz. Okay. The next one here we're going to look at is supply and demand. In this problem, we have a market for coffee, and the government has imposed a price floor. So the first thing we need to know is, for a price floor to be effective, it needs to be above the market equilibrium price. Price floor needs to be above market price, and a price ceiling needs to be below market price. For either of those to be effective. So the problem is telling us that the price of a pound of coffee is set by the government at $11 per pound. Okay, so we just jump down here really quickly and look at the model, at the supply and demand model. We can see that $11 per pound is above the market price, the market equilibrium price of $8 per pound, where supply equals demand. So we know that this is going to be an effective price floor. So let's see what we need to figure out here. Will the quantity demanded be lower or higher than at the equilibrium price of $8 per pound? So if the price of a good goes up, will the quantity demanded be lower or higher? Well, without even looking at the model, you should know that it's going to be lower, because when price goes up, quantity demanded goes down, because it's a downward sloping curve. So we're going to have a movement along the curve from here up to here, right? Let me just jump this again. From here up to here. So the quantity demand is going to drop from 600,000 pounds, because this is in thousands of pounds. Oh, by the way, it's really always important to look carefully at the variables in the model and in the units, right? Because this is not 600, this is 600,000. So anyway, when the price is increased by the government from $8 to $11 per pound, the quantity demanded is going to decrease from 600,000 to 100,000. You see it right there, okay? Now, next, will the quantity supplied be lower or higher? Well, when the price goes up, that means that the suppliers can afford to produce more. They can afford to produce at a higher marginal cost, because you guys are going to learn later on that supply also equals marginal cost for the producers. Okay, so where the marginal cost equals a price, that's where the market price is going to be, right here, where marginal cost equals price. Anyway, I'm kind of getting ahead of the game here. So will the quantity supply be lower or higher? Well, it's going to be higher, because with the government imposed price floor, you're going to get a movement along the supply curve from here up to here. So you're going to get an increase in supply from 600,000 pounds of coffee to 900,000 pounds of coffee with that price floor. And then lastly, is there a shortage or a surplus in the market? If so, how much? Well, there's obviously a surplus in the market, because at this higher price, more is being supplied by the producers than is being demanded by the consumers. So we have a difference here between 900,000 supplied and 100,000 demanded. So I believe, if I'm doing my math correctly, that's a surplus of 800,000 pounds of coffee. Now, just to make sure we totally understand this model, because you could get different questions on a quiz or on a test, or you should be able to fully understand it. So we can also ask ourselves, what would happen if there was a price ceiling imposed at $6? So let's say that the government wanted to make it easier on consumers to buy the coffee. This is probably not ever going to happen, but let's just assume that, for whatever reason, the government has decided that the population would be better off if they were able to consume more coffee. So they're going to put impose a price ceiling. Producers cannot charge over $6 a pound for coffee. So that would be a price below market. So when the price is lower, you've got an increase in demand. So you would have a movement down the demand curve from here. And if the price is going to be lower, that means at a marginal cost of if the price is going to be lower, then the suppliers or the producers are only going to be able to, they can only afford to produce what they can produce at the marginal cost of $6. So they're going to produce less. So they're going to have see a movement from here down to here. So now instead of having a surplus, we're going to have a shortage because more is demanded here than is supplied. And we're going to have a shortage of 1,250 minus 360, which is, let's see, 1,250, 950 minus 60, which I believe is 890, I believe. Let's just check that to make sure. So I don't confuse anybody. I believe I did that right. 1250 minus 360 minus 60 equals 890. Okay, so that would be the shortage, 890,000 pounds of coffee. That would be the amount of the shortage in the market. Okay, there you go. So if you fully understand this model, and if you fully understand the impact or the effect of a price floor or a price ceiling on the market price and quantity supplied and demanded, then you'll have no problem on the quiz. Okay. The last one for part one is a supply and demand table, which you could use to actually derive the supply and demand curve. And we'll probably, well, not probably, we will be doing that later on, especially for the micro students. But for now, we just have a table with the price, the quantity demanded at each of the prices, and the quantity supplied at each of the prices. So we're talking about the quantities of soccer balls measured in thousands. So this is 120,000 soccer balls demanded. This is 115,000 soccer balls supplied. So the first question is, what is the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied at a price of 8? Well, that's easy, right? So you just go up here and you see the table that a price of 8, there's 120,000 soccer balls demanded and only 25 soccer balls supplied. So if the price were at 8, there'd be a huge shortage, right? Way more demanded than supplied. The next question, number 2, what is the quantity supplied? What is the price? I'm sorry, what price is the quantity supplied? At what price? I can't even read. At what price is the quantity supplied equal to 65,000? Well, that's going to be right here, right? So when the quantity supplied is 65,000, because once again, this is in thousands, right? Then the price is going to be $9 per soccer ball. Okay. Number 3. Let's see if I can read this one. At what are the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity? Well, that's going to be where supply equals demand, and that's going to be pretty easy too, right? Right here. So where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, you're going to get 10. Now, once again, I said where supply equals the demand, and you'll hear that a lot, but technically the correct terminology is where quantity demand equals quantity supply. Because if we're really being picky here, if supply equal demand, then the two curves would be exactly the same, right? So when we say, where does the demand curve move. Okay, where does the demand curve intersect the supply curve, right? Right here, this is where quantity demanded equal quantity supplied. So just make sure that we're not confusing ourselves with our terminology. Okay, let's see. If the price was $9, so if the price was below market price, market equilibrium price, because $9 is below the market price of $10. If the price was $9, what would the quantities demand and supply be? Would a shortage or a surplus exist? If so, how large would the shortage or surplus be? So at $9, a price below the market price, we're going to call that a price ceiling, right? The price cannot come above 9. So that would mean that we have more demanded, a higher quantity demanded than supplied, which would give us a shortage. And I believe if I'm doing my math correctly, that will be 35,000. Once again, this is in thousands. So we'd have a shortage of 35,000 soccer balls if there was a price ceiling set at $1 below the market price of $10. That's that one, right? That's everything. So if you understand that this type of model, and you understand where you're going to find market equilibrium of price, where quantity to demand equals quantity supply, and you understand the impact of the price being either above or below. Because if you were asking instead what would happen if the price was set at 11, if the price was set at 11, which would be a price above market, which would be a price floor, then that would create a surplus of 40,000 with a price floor set at $11, $1 above market equilibrium price of 10. Okay, so that does it for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.